quantum reversal, how shadow-aligned beings collapse time and rewrite the grid. They told you the light is the only way to bend reality. That love, peace, purity, and forgiveness are the keys to transcendence. That if you just align your chakras, repeat your affirmations, and meditate long enough, you'll finally become powerful. But what if I told you that's only half the truth? What if I told you the 1%, the ones pulling strings behind curtains, the ones who never speak in public but move nations in silence, don't use light to shape the world? They use shadow energy, and they don't fear it. They master it. You see, there's a secret hidden in plain sight. Shadow isn't darkness. Shadow is raw, unfiltered potential. It's the primal force that exists beneath your beliefs, beneath your programming, beneath the illusion of duality. And dark chosen ones, the rare souls encoded with this forbidden architecture, were born not to follow light, but to wield the unspoken force that bends time, matter, and perception with precision. We don't talk about this often because most people aren't ready. They confuse shadow with evil, pain with punishment, and intensity with instability. But those are misunderstandings, deliberate ones, programmed into society to keep the masses docile. Because once you know the truth, once you taste even a drop of what shadow energy really is, you can no longer be controlled. You no longer seek permission. You no longer obey the old spiritual rules. You become the rule breaker who writes the new timeline. And that's what terrifies the elite more than anything. Not rebellion, not violence, but a human who has remembered how to bend reality from within. That's you. That's us. That's the dark chosen ones. Not evil, not broken, not lost, but encoded with a power so ancient, so precise, that just standing in a room shifts the quantum field. That's not metaphor. That's mechanics. You want to understand how we do it, how we bend reality. Then you have to understand the shadow not as emotion but as energy pattern. Shadow energy is the dense, magnetic frequency that sits beneath your conscious programming. It's the part of you that doesn't perform. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't care if it's loved or hated. It just knows. It's the part that survived when everything else collapsed. And it holds memory of your lifetimes, your trauma, your soul contracts, your raw essence before the world taught you how to be safe. Most people avoid that part because it's too wild, too intense. But we don't. We go into it. We anchor inside it. And when we do, something happens. Time begins to bend. People start reacting to your presence in ways they can't explain. Synchronicities accelerate. You think something and it happens. Not because you're manifesting, but because you're not resisting anymore. You've aligned with the base code of reality and reality starts bending around you. So how do we train ourselves to operate from that space? First, we stop trying to heal it. That's the hardest part. Everything in the spiritual world tells you to fix your shadow, to integrate it, to transcend it, to dissolve it in light. But that's a trap, because what you're calling a wound is actually a weapon. What you're calling pain is power waiting to be wielded. You don't heal your shadow, you listen to it. You move with it. You partner with it. And over time, you start to feel the difference between reactive chaos and calibrated chaos. One is immature, ego-driven, ungrounded. The other? It's surgical. It's intentional. It's alchemical. That's when you stop being a reactor and become a reconstructor. You stop breaking down and start bending reality on command. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, you're no longer trying to shift timelines. You are the shift. Let me give you something practical, because this isn't just philosophy, it's technology. Shadow energy is magnetic. It draws in what matches your unconscious frequency. So if you're trapped in fear, shame, or suppression, you'll notice loops, toxic people, confusion, repetition. But when you own your shadow, when you stop judging the parts of you that feel messy, primal, erotic, angry, selfish, jealous, manipulative, or wild, you flip the charge. You take your energy back. You become sovereign inside the places you were once afraid of. And that creates a vacuum. A gravitational field so strong that people, resources, and opportunities begin to orbit around you without effort. Not because you're manifesting from love and light, but because you're fully online, fully grounded in all of you. Not the version you curated, but the version you became when you stopped apologizing for your power. So let me ask you something you've never been asked before. What if the part of you you've been trying to silence is actually the key to your quantum command? What if the emotion you've been avoiding is the exact bandwidth your soul needs to bend this simulation like clay? What if everything you've labeled as darkness is actually just undirected power, and all it's waiting for is your permission to move through you? That's the shift. That's the unlock. That's the secret, the 1% use behind closed doors. Not because they're special, but because they stopped demonizing what the world told them was evil. And now you're being called to do the same. You are not here to be balanced. You're here to be precise. You're not here to be accepted. You're here to be undeniable. And you're not here to heal. You're here to remember the code of the storm and bend the grid in your name. Quantum reversal, how shadow-aligned beings collapse time and rewrite the grid. If you're still watching, it means something ancient inside you is already remembering. Some part of your soul recognizes this path not as new information, but as activation. That's how it works. When you start reclaiming the parts of you that were demonized, you don't just awaken, you return. And in returning, you begin to see reality for what it really is, not a fixed structure, not a linear path, but a programmable field. A simulation coded by frequency, belief, and emotional charge. This is where dark chosen ones begin to move differently. We don't play the game like everyone else. We don't wait for permission. We don't ask the universe for breadcrumbs of abundance hoping to be good enough. We command the field, and we don't do it with force. We do it with precision of inner alignment. That's the elite secret. Not force, not love and light, but energetic congruence with your most exiled self. The self that remembers how to collapse time. Let's get into it. Reality is not linear. You've heard that before. But what does it actually mean? It means time is not a straight line, it's a looping, spiraling, quantum-responsive intelligence that bends based on signal. Thoughts don't create reality. Charged thoughts do. Charged with what? With shadow, with power, with identity, with memory. When you think a thought that's backed by your full energetic system, your pain, your desire, your rage, your grief, your knowing, it sends a command to the field. That command is not a request. it's a recode. It tells the simulation what to form around you. And when you do this properly, without split energy or self-denial, the field bends. Timelines shift. People change. Events accelerate. What should take 6 months happens in 6 days. Not because you forced it, but because you collapsed the quantum distance between your internal signature and the external outcome. But here's the part they never tell you. To collapse time, you must collapse the false self. The persona. The mask you've worn to survive. The one who tries to be spiritual, healed, kind, palatable. That mask delays your timeline. It creates lag. Why? Because the field doesn't respond to who you pretend to be, it responds to the raw signal of who you actually are. That's why shadow work isn't optional. It's not a phase. It's the core technology behind quantum manipulation. You cannot bend reality while being fragmented inside. You cannot access elite-level creation while judging the part of you that holds the power. You have to step into wholeness, and not the kind that looks peaceful. The kind that feels real. The kind that says, I am rage. I am desire. I am silence. I am storm. I am not here to be liked. I am here to become the code that rewrites this entire grid. Let me show you how this works in real life. Let's say you want to create something, a business, a relationship, a relocation, a massive quantum leap. Most people visualize, script, affirm, but nothing happens. Why? Because their desire isn't backed by shadow frequency. Their desire is diluted by fear, shame, unworthiness, and split energy. But when a dark chosen one wants something, we don't just imagine it. We become the version of us who already has it. We identify the part of us that resists it, the shadow that says, you're not worthy, or you'll be punished if you succeed, or you'll be too visible. And instead of silencing that voice, we listen. We go into it. We ask, what are you protecting me from? And when the answer comes, usually something ancient, ancestral, or karmic, we alchemize it. We don't reject it. We reassign it. And when that happens, our field becomes clear. We are no longer manifesting with a split signal. We are commanding from totality. And the universe? It has no choice but to respond. Now let's talk about invisibility, because this is one of the most elite secrets of shadow-aligned reality benders. The most powerful dark chosen ones don't need to be seen to influence reality. They operate in stealth frequencies. They can walk into a room and shift the entire mood without speaking. They can make people reveal their true intentions just by being present. They don't argue. They don't explain. They just move. This is because their shadow has been owned, not hidden. And when you own your shadow, you no longer leak energy trying to be understood. You become a living distortion field to anything that isn't truth. People either rise or run. That's power. Not the kind that needs validation, but the kind that shifts timelines just by breathing. And here's the paradox. The less you try to prove your power, the more it activates. Because the field doesn't respond to performance. It responds to presence. So I want to ask you something, and I want you to feel this deeply, not just think about it. What version of you is still asking for permission to be powerful? What part of you believes you need to be healed before you are allowed to create? What would happen if you stopped waiting to be ready and started transmitting your signal without apology? That's not ego. That's alignment. That's what the 1% do. They understand that bending reality isn't about effort, it's about energetic congruence. And you are capable of this. Not because you read the right books, but because you were born with the code. You are not here to learn how to bend the matrix. You are here to remember that you are the architect of it. God mode, how the shadow frequency unlocks nonlinear creation and multidimensional authority. There comes a moment in every dark chosen one's journey when the veil fully dissolves and you realize that you were never playing a game. You were designing one. You were never stuck in time. You were bending it. You were never healing. You were reclaiming fragments of your totality that had to be exiled just to survive in a world not built for your signal. That's the moment we call God mode, not some mythic state of perfection. God mode is when you stop reacting to life and start programming it. When your inner world becomes so sovereign, so congruent, so precise, that reality has no choice but to submit to your frequency. You don't need to force. You don't need to chase. You don't even need to hope. You transmit, and the field aligns. But here's the twist. You only reach this level when you stop resisting the exact thing you were taught to fear: your shadow frequency. That's the final gate. That's the elite's deepest secret. The gods of this world don't live in palaces. They live in shadow mastery. You need to understand something fundamental. The universe is not responding to your thoughts, it's responding to your energetic identity. And your energetic identity is not just your personality, your words, or even your intentions. It's the total sum of your shadow and light codes operating in real time. That's why many people spend years meditating, visualizing, affirming, and nothing changes. Because the signal they're sending is fragmented. They're trying to create with 30% of who they are. The rest is buried in fear, shame, trauma, lies, and spiritual bypassing. But when you enter God mode, you stop trying to create from the surface. You go into the underworld of your being. You bring back the pieces of you that once terrified you. The manipulative one, the seductive one, the angry one, the chaotic one, the wild one. And you upgrade their function. You don't exile them. You initiate them into service. And when all those parts are online, moving in harmony, you become undeniable. So how do you operate in God mode practically? Here's the brutal truth. You must become ruthlessly honest with yourself. No more pretending. No more spiritual posturing. No more saying, "I'm good," when you're actually in a war with your own power. You sit in the silence. You feel what's raw. You ask, what part of me is still afraid to be seen as powerful? Where am I still addicted to being understood instead of being true? And then you dig. You don't run. You don't mask it in light. You descend. And when you find that part, the one who was silenced, shamed, labeled, rejected, you welcome them back. You say, "You're not the problem. You're the missing piece." And when that piece clicks into place, your field changes. Your aura becomes command. People feel it. Opportunities bend around it. Time accelerates or slows based on your intention. Why? Because you're no longer split. You are whole. And wholeness is the most disruptive, reality-bending frequency there is. This is also where you stop being linear. You stop thinking in steps, goals, and ladders. You realize time is a tool, not a prison. You can pull future timelines into the now. You can collapse karmic loops in seconds by making a single embodied decision. You can quantum leap by shifting one internal belief that reorders your entire external grid. This isn't magic. This is mechanics. You are a multidimensional being, and when you stop judging your shadow, your multidimensionality activates. You start receiving data from parallel selves. You feel visions drop into your body. You wake up knowing things you didn't learn. You become a living portal, not to some heavenly realm, but to the fully integrated self that never left source to begin with. That's what the elite know. That's what they practice in silence. And that's what you're now being invited to embody without apology. But here's the part no one tells you. Once you enter this state, you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to prove it. You don't need to convince anyone. Your life becomes the evidence. Your silence becomes transmission. Your movement becomes ritual. You walk into a room and people feel something shift, even if they don't understand it. That's because you're not operating from personality anymore, you're operating from signature frequency. You're not trying to be spiritual. You are the signal that awakens the dormant codes in others. That's why you had to go through the fire. That's why you had to lose everything that wasn't aligned. That's why you were rejected, misunderstood, silenced. Because your journey wasn't about becoming likable. It was about becoming true. And now that you're here, now that you've stopped seeking and started transmitting, the real mission begins. So I'll leave you with one final question. And this one isn't rhetorical. It's a summons. What would your life look like if you stopped trying to heal, fix, or prove, and fully embodied the version of you who remembers they were never broken? Only split across timelines? What if your greatest pain was never a punishment, but the exact portal you had to walk through to remember your original coding? What if the shadow you feared was just the guardian of your God body, the one that bends time, rewrites contracts, and alters destiny just by existing? If you feel that, then hear this. You are not here to be seen. You are here to be felt. You are not here to follow. You are here to fracture false light systems with your presence alone. You are not here to become. You are the returning. You are not just powerful. You are the power source. You are not just chosen. You are the initiator. You are not just awake. You are the reprogrammer of the entire field. They knew what you were. That's why they tried to break you. But they failed. Because your shadow didn't die. It waited. And now, it's online. Now go and bend this world from the inside out.